The moment Ava Cole pushed open the heavy wooden door of the Iron Crow's biker bar, the noise inside faltered just enough for her footsteps to cut through the music. Conversations paused. A few pool players stopped mid-shot. Someone lowered a beer halfway toward his lips. It wasn't because she was pretty or because she was unfamiliar. It was because no woman ever walked into that bar alone. Not in a town like Ridgewater. Not at that hour. Not with that look on her face. Ava kept going. She didn't scan the room, didn't hesitate, didn't act intimidated. She walked with her shoulders square and her eyes forward, exactly like someone raised to survive places like that, and exactly like someone who absolutely did not belong there. Behind her, the door thudded shut. The neon lights along the back wall flickered in blue and red, flashing over leather jackets, cuts with patches from road trips and battles, faces that had lived more danger than most people imagined. Cigarette smoke hung low, and the floor vibrated slightly from the base of the old speaker system. And there she was, cutting across all of it. She stopped at the bar and raised her hand to catch the bartender's attention. For a second, nobody moved. Danny, the bartender, finally stepped closer. She was used to drunks, bikers, truckers, and men who liked to act louder than they were strong. But Ava wasn't any of those. She watched her with a cautious interest, like she was trying to solve a puzzle. "What can I get you?" Danny asked. "Coffee, if you have it. Black." Ava's voice was steady, direct. She didn't soften it, didn't pretend. Danny almost laughed. It had been years since anyone asked for coffee there. But she nodded and turned to grab the old pot warming behind the counter. While Ava waited, she rested one elbow casually on the bar. And that was when it happened. When her sleeve slid back just enough. When the ink on her arm became visible. A black crow with a broken chain around its leg. A symbol no one had seen in almost 15 years. A symbol that did not belong to her. The reaction was instant. A glass shattered somewhere behind her. A chair scraped sharply against the floor. And the entire bar, every man wearing a leather vest with the Iron Crow's patch, froze. Jax Carter, the vice president of the club, stood from a back table. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark beard, eyes sharp enough to cut steel. He wasn't the kind of man who raised his voice to get attention. He didn't need to. His presence did it for him. "Turn around," he said to Ava, loud enough for half the bar to hear. Ava didn't move at first. She finished lowering her sleeve, picked up the steaming cup of coffee Danny set down, and finally turned. Her expression wasn't defiant. It wasn't scared. It was simply steady, as if she expected exactly this. Jax took a step toward her. "Where'd you get that tattoo?" he asked, pointing at her arm. His voice wasn't angry. Yet, it was something worse. Suspicious. Ava didn't blink. "It was my father's before it was mine." A ripple moved through the bar. Some men whispered. Others folded their arms. A few exchanged quick glances that looked a lot like fear. Reed Mercer, the club president, stood up slowly. He was tall, clean-cut for a biker, with sharp eyes and a forced calmness that never felt natural. He pushed his chair back and walked over, a closed-mouth smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Let's all relax," Reed said. "No need to start a scene." But the scene had already started. Jax didn't look away from Ava. "Say his name." She held his stare. Eli Cole. And that was it. That name detonated through the room like a bomb. A gun clattered as someone dropped it. Ghost, an older biker with gray in his beard and more miles behind him than ahead, exhaled sharply and lowered his head like he'd just seen a ghost. Reed's fake calm finally cracked. Jax froze. "You're lying," someone near the pool table said. Eli didn't have kids. Ava didn't bother turning toward the voice. "He did, and I'm right here." Ghost walked closer, his boots heavy against the wooden floor. He squinted at her like he was searching her face for something. "You got your mother's eyes," he muttered under his breath. Reed cut him a sharp look, but Ghost ignored it. Jax stepped even closer, invading Ava's space just enough to test her reaction. She didn't flinch. Eli Cole died in a robbery 15 years ago, he said. What exactly are you doing here wearing his ink? Ava took a slow breath. I came for answers. Reed crossed his arms. Answers to what? To why he died, she said. And to why every official document says one thing, while every old story I find says something very different. Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence. Danny swallowed hard behind the bar. She'd heard rumors over the years, whispers of Eli, but no one spoke openly. No one dared. Reed forced another smile. This is not the place for family drama. Ava tilted her head, unafraid. I didn't come for drama. I came for truth. A few bikers murmured their approval. Others tensed, waiting for Reed's reaction. Jax's jaw tightened as he searched Ava's expression. She didn't look like someone causing trouble. She looked like someone carrying truth she never asked for. What exactly do you think happened to Eli? Jax asked. Ava's voice lowered, steady as stone. I think he was betrayed, and I think someone in this town knows who did it. A chair fell over in the corner. Reed stepped forward fast. That's enough. You don't come into our bar and throw accusations around. Your old man died because he put himself in the wrong place at the wrong time. End of story. Ava didn't back down. Then why do people keep trying so hard to stop me from asking questions? Jax's eyes flicked toward Reed, just for a split second, but Ava caught it. So did Ghost. So did everyone paying attention. That tiny glance revealed more than any confession. Reed felt the shift in the room and tried to regain control. You're leaving. Now. Ava took a sip of her coffee, unfazed. Not until I get what I came for. And that was when two bikers moved in behind her, one on each side, intending to escort her out. Ava didn't reach for a weapon. She didn't panic. She just stepped sideways, keeping her back against the bar, forcing Jax to see exactly how far Reed was willing to escalate. Enough, Jax snapped. His voice hit the room like a command nobody dared ignore. The two bikers froze. Reed stared at him, eyes hard. You giving orders now? I'm stopping you from making a mistake, Jax replied. Ava looked at Jax for the first time with something other than steady neutrality. Maybe recognition, maybe respect. It was small, but it was there. Reed leaned closer to Ava, his voice low and full of warning. You don't know what you're walking into, girl. Ava met his stare. I know exactly where I am. A slow, dangerous murmur spread. The room was split, half ready to hear Ava's story, half ready to throw her out. Ghost stepped forward and put a hand on Jax's shoulder. Let her speak, he said quietly. If she carries Eli's ink, she deserves that much. Reed looked furious, but the tide had turned. Slowly, bikers moved aside, forming a loose circle around Ava. Jax nodded once. Start talking. Why now? Why come here after so long? Ava set her coffee down. My mother died 3 months ago, she said. She left a letter with only one sentence. Ava's voice didn't shake, it hardened. Your father didn't abandon you, he was betrayed. And just like that, the entire bar shifted again. Eyes narrowed. Teeth clenched. Ghost looked like he might collapse. Danielle stepped back with a hand over her mouth. Ava wasn't finished. And I'm going to find out who betrayed him, she said. Even if the answer is standing in this room. A cold wave hit the room. A challenge. A promise. A threat. A truth. Reed's face twitched. Jax exhaled once, slow. You're about to stir up things you don't understand. Ava didn't blink. Then explain them. Reed slammed his hand on the bar. That's enough! But no one moved to back him. Ava looked around the room, every man watching her poised between past and present. And she said, calm and unshaken, I didn't come here to fight you, but I'm not leaving until I know what really happened to Eli Cole. The bar fell silent again. A silence filled with dangerous possibilities. Reed's glare burned. Jax's suspicion sharpened. Ghost whispered something under his breath. A name, a warning. Ava couldn't tell. And then, just as Reed opened his mouth to speak. The bar door creaked open behind her. Someone new stepped inside. Someone who wasn't supposed to be there. And everything in the room shifted again. The door swung open and every head turned. A man in a tan uniform stepped inside, rein still clinging to his shoulders. Sheriff Nolan Briggs, broad, middle-aged, heavy boots, eyes that scanned a room like he expected trouble and enjoyed controlling it when it came. He was not a regular at the Iron Crow's bar. He should not have been there. For a second, his gaze swept over the bikers, then stopped on Ava, on the circle around her, on Jack standing close, on Reed's clenched jaw. He noticed the tension in an instant. "Evening," Briggs said slowly. "Did I walk into a party I wasn't invited to?" No one laughed. Reed shifted gears fast, forcing a smile. "Just club business, Sheriff, nothing you need to worry about." Briggs took a few steps in. "You sure? Looks like everyone's about to tear someone apart in here." His eyes moved back to Ava. He noticed the tattoo on her arm and paused for half a second. It was small, but Ava saw it. So did Jack's. Recognition, discomfort. Then he hit it. "New face?" Briggs asked. Ava didn't drop her gaze. "Just passing through." Briggs hummed. "You picked the wrong bar to pass through, sweetheart." Jax cut in before Reed could. "She's a grown woman, Sheriff. She can choose her own bar." Briggs looked at him with mild irritation, but he didn't push further. Instead, he glanced at Reed again, some quiet exchange passing between them that Ava didn't like. "Well," Briggs said, adjusting his belt, "if there's no trouble, I'll let you all get back to your club business." He gave Ava one last long look, then turned and walked out. The door shut behind him. The silence that followed felt even heavier. Ava kept her eyes on the door a moment longer. "Your sheriff always walks into biker bars to say goodnight?" she asked quietly. Danny let out a short breath. "Never," she said. That was a first. Reed's patience snapped. "We're done here," he said. "You said your piece, you threw your accusations around, now you can leave the way you came." "I didn't accuse anyone," Ava said. "Not yet." Ghost stepped closer. "Reed!" Reed turned on him. "Not now." Jax ignored Reed and looked straight at Ava. "You came here with a name and a tattoo. That's not nothing. But you want us to believe you're Eli Cole's daughter after 15 years of silence." He paused. "You're going to have to give us more than one letter and a last name." Ava reached into her bag slowly, making sure everyone could see her hands. She pulled out a worn folder, edges bent, full of printed pages, copies, and handwritten notes. She set it on the bar with a soft thud. "This is more," she said. Danny, standing close, looked down at it. "What is all that?" "Police report of the so-called robbery," Ava said. "Autopsy summary, newspaper clippings, insurance documents that never lined up, my mother's medical records, and 2 pages from her letter where she tried to explain what she couldn't say out loud." Jax didn't touch the folder yet. "You've been digging into this for a while." "Since I was 17, Ava said. "At first I just wanted to know why my father left. I thought he walked away from us, then I started finding things that didn't match. And when my mother got sick, she stopped denying it." Her voice went lower, but not weak, just honest. "She told me his name," Ava continued. "Told me he was part of a motorcycle club in a town called Ridgewater. Told me she lied when she said he didn't want to see me." She swallowed once. "The last words she wrote were about betrayal. So I put his ink on my arm, took everything I found, and came here." Ghost's eyes grew wet, though he tried to hide it. Reed's expression hardened. "You think grief and a story give you the right to walk in here and throw around the word betrayal like that?" "I think the facts do," Ava said. She opened the folder and flipped a page. "The report says he died during a store robbery. Wrong place, wrong time. But the timestamp on the security camera photos doesn't match the time of death on the autopsy report. The officer's signatures don't match later logs. There's a missing page in the case file, and every question I asked at the department in my city turned into a closed door. She lifted her eyes. That's not just bad paperwork. The room shifted again. Men who didn't care about police reports still understood one thing very well. When someone in power worked that hard to bury a story, there was a reason. Jax finally reached for the folder and pulled out one document. He read the top lines, his brow furrowing. This store, he said. I know it. It's not even on the route he was supposed to ride that night. Ghost looked up sharply. Reed's jaw flexed. Routes change. Not without a reason, Ghost muttered. Ava watched every reaction, storing each one. I checked traffic cameras from that night, she added. Eli's bike appears on a different highway than the one listed in the report, 15 minutes before the supposed robbery. There's no footage of him near that store at all. She paused. But do you know what there is footage of? No one answered. 2 trucks from a logistics company that doesn't exist anymore, Ava said. Same fake company name that keeps showing up linked to missing girls and closed cases in small towns along 2 states. That got their attention. Danny swallowed. Missing girls? Ava nodded. Kids, young women, runaways on paper, but they disappear near the same stops. Same brand of trucks, same routes. Conspiracy theories, Reed said quickly. You can find patterns anywhere if you look hard enough. I'm not looking for patterns, Ava replied. I'm looking at records. The dates line up. The routes line up. Eli's last ride lines up with the first cluster of disappearances. Jax's hand tightened around the paper he held. You're saying Eli got in the way of something bigger. I'm saying he saw something he wasn't supposed to see, Ava said, or refused to play along with something that was already happening on these roads. Ghost wiped a hand over his face. His voice came out rough. He came to me the week before he died, Ghost said quietly. Said he had a bad feeling about certain people sniffing around. He didn't give details. Just said he wouldn't let our colors be used for the wrong kind of business. He looked at Reed. You remember that? Reed lifted his chin. I remember a lot of things that never made it into any official report. Ava caught the edge in his tone. So you do know more, she said. Reed turned on her. You don't get to question me. You weren't here. You didn't ride the miles he rode with us. You didn't bury him. Ava didn't flinch. No, I just buried the woman who never stopped missing him. Jax looked between them, tension building in his shoulders. Reed, why didn't we ever see any camera footage or full reports? Why was everything about Eli's death just told to us, not shown? Because it was handled, Reed snapped. The sheriff at the time closed the case. That's the end of it. Ava tilted her head. Same office the sheriff works in now? The image of Briggs standing in the doorway a few minutes earlier hung in everyone's mind. Danny stepped closer to Ava, voice low. These trucks you mentioned, you said they still run? Yes, Ava said. Not under the same name, but the plates match. Different shell companies, same owners behind them. I traced some routes. She slid another sheet from the folder. They pass through this town, often, late nights. No records of official cargo, no taxes, no inspections. Jack stared at the paper. These highways, we ride them. I know, Ava said. That's why I came here first. If someone is using your roads to move people, they think you'll either look the other way or help protect their shipments without knowing what's really inside. Reed laughed once, short and harsh. Now we're smugglers, traffickers. Is that your story? You walk in here with a few printed pages and accuse an entire club of working with whoever you've built in your head? I didn't say you're all part of it, Ava said calmly. I said someone is, maybe outside, maybe inside. But routes like this don't stay open for years without someone powerful keeping them that way. She looked around. You all see the trucks, she said. You see the same drivers. You hear things at gas stations and truck stops. You notice scared faces at windows. You just learned to look away, because someone convinced you it wasn't your fight. For a moment, nobody spoke. It was Jax who broke the silence. Why didn't you go straight to the feds, he asked. Why come to a bar full of men who might be exactly what you're afraid of? Ava met his eyes. There was no drama in her answer, only cold logic. Because on paper, all the local reports are clean. The sheriff signs off on everything. If I walk into a federal building alone with a theory, they can ignore me. But if I walk in with a club who knows the roads, who's seen the trucks, who can point to real things on the ground? She paused. That's different. Danny nodded slowly. She's not wrong. Reed shook his head. We're not getting involved in this. Jax turned. You mean we're not even going to check? Reed's eyes flashed. We run a club, not a charity. We keep our side of the street clean. Whatever happens in some logistics company's warehouse is not our business. Ava's expression hardened. It was Eli's business, she said quietly. That's why he died. Reed stepped closer, face inches from hers. You don't know what you're talking about. Ava held his gaze without blinking. Then explain it. Tell me how a man who hated dirty deals suddenly died next to 2 trucks from a fake company, on a road he shouldn't have been on, with a sheriff who can't keep his story straight 15 years later. The room watched Reed. He didn't answer. He turned away instead. Meeting's over, he said to the room. Everyone back to their tables. Drinks on the house for the next hour. Nobody moved. Jax spoke up. Reed. Reed didn't look at him. Not now, Jax. Jax's voice dropped. Now. The 2 men locked eyes. Something old passed between them. Respect, frustration, a history of following orders that suddenly didn't feel right anymore. Ghost stepped between them before it went further. This isn't happening in the middle of the bar, he muttered. He turned to Ava. You got somewhere safe to stay tonight? She hesitated. Motel on Route 19. Danny winced. That place? You're kidding. It's cheap and I don't plan on sleeping much, Ava said. Jax made a decision right there. You'll get a room somewhere else, he said. Danny will help you and 2 of our guys will make sure nobody follows you. Reed spun around. The hell they will. We're not babysitting strangers. Jax stared him down. We're making sure nobody silences the only person asking the right questions. Ava watched him carefully. You still don't trust me, she said. No, Jax answered honestly. But I trust what you're stirring up, and I know how far some people will go to stop it. Reed's eyes narrowed. You think someone in this town would hurt her? Ava answered before Jax could. They already tried, in other towns. You think I started chasing this yesterday? She picked up her folder and closed it. I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to look at what's right in front of your faces. If your club had a president who died for saying no, then you have a choice to make about what you are now. The words landed. Biker patches meant loyalty, brotherhood, respect. They also meant reputation. The idea that Eli Cole might have died resisting something filthy made some men straighten their backs a little. Danny came around the bar and set a motel keycard on the counter. My cousin manages a small place on the other side of town, she said to Ava. Clean, quiet. She owes me a favor. You'll stay there tonight. Ava studied her for a second, then nodded. Thank you. Jax turned to 2 younger members. Rory. Luke. You're going to shadow her ride. No colors, no drama. You see anyone trailing her, you let me know. They nodded. Reed stared at Jax. You're going to regret sticking your neck out for this. Jax answered without looking at him. I'll live. Ava tucked the folder back into her bag. If you decide you want to know more, she said to the room, I'll be around. And you'll start noticing things you've been ignoring for years. Ghost stepped closer to her, voice barely above a whisper. You got a picture of him? He asked. Of Eli? Ava hesitated, then pulled her phone from her pocket. She opened a photo of an old, faded picture, a younger Eli with a bike, arm around a woman holding a baby. Ghost cleared his throat. Yeah, he said hoarsely. That's him. Some of the men near him leaned in and looked too. Their faces changed, just a little. Ride safe, Ghost said, and keep that door locked tonight. Ava nodded, slipped her phone away, and turned to leave. As she walked toward the door, the bikers parted again, but this time it felt different, less hostile, more uncertain. Some of them still didn't trust her. Some didn't care. But a few had looks in their eyes that said they were going to rewatch old memories like she had asked. She stepped out into the night. The air was cooler, quieter, but it no longer felt empty. Danny joined her outside for a second, pointing to where her car was parked. "If Briggs shows up near that motel, you call me first," she said. "Not him, not anyone else, me." "You don't trust your sheriff," Ava said. "I trust what I see," Danny replied. And he looked at that tattoo like it belonged to a problem he thought was gone. Ava filed that away too. "Thank you," she said. Danny squeezed her arm once, then went back inside. Ava got into her car, started the engine, and pulled away from the bar. In her rearview mirror, she saw two bikes roll out a few seconds later, keeping their distance like Jax had ordered. Inside the bar, Jax still stood near the counter, the folder's image burned into his mind. Roots, trucks, missing girls, Eli's name. Reed broke the silence. "You're letting a stranger turn us against our own history." Jax didn't look at him. "Maybe our history wasn't as clean as we were told." "You want to dig up a dead man's mistakes?" Reed snapped. "Be my guest. But don't drag the club into some crusade. We survive by staying out of other people's wars." Jax turned to face him. "What if this isn't someone else's war?" he asked. "What if it started with us?" The question hung in the air, heavy and real. Reed didn't answer. Ghost walked past them both, heading for the door. "I'm going home," he muttered. "Got some old notebooks to look at." Jax watched him go, then looked back at Reed one last time. "If you know more about that night," he said quietly, "you better hope it matches whatever she finds, because if it doesn't, this isn't going away." Reed's eyes turned cold. "Careful, Jax. There are some roads you don't come back from." Jax didn't flinch. "You sound like a man who's already too far down one." He walked away, leaving Reed alone in the middle of the bar. Outside, the town of Ridgewater looked almost peaceful. Streetlights glowed. Windows were dark. The highways stretched out into the night like simple strips of asphalt. But now to a few people in that bar, they didn't look simple anymore. They looked like routes where something ugly had been hiding in plain sight for years. And for the first time, Jax Carter couldn't unsee it. He didn't know yet that the next time he heard a truck engine late at night, it wouldn't sound like background noise anymore. It would sound like a question. Who lied about Eli Cole's last ride? And how far would they go to keep that lie alive? Ava didn't sleep. Even after she checked into the quiet roadside motel on the far end of town, even after Danny's cousin gave her the key with a sympathetic smile, even after she locked the door twice and shoved a chair under the handle, her mind refused to slow down. Too many signs. Too many coincidences. Too many people who reacted the wrong way to her father's name. She sat on the edge of the bed, folder open again on her lap, papers spread like a map of a life she barely knew. She kept replaying every expression inside the bar, Jax's suspicion turning into concern, Ghost's heartbreak, Reed's hostility, and Sheriff Briggs's discomfort when he saw her tattoo. That moment stuck with her the most. Briggs shouldn't have recognized the symbol, not unless he'd seen it before, not unless he had been involved back then. Ava rubbed her temples. She needed proof, not theories, and she wasn't going to get it sitting in a motel room. She stood, grabbed her jacket and keys, and stepped outside into the cold night air. Behind her, far in the distance, she saw two motorcycle headlights, Rory and Luke, parked discreetly off to the side, doing exactly what Jax had instructed. She didn't wave, but she appreciated the silent protection. She got into her car and headed toward the gas station on Route 7, one of the places her records had marked as a repeated stop for suspicious trucks. Maybe she'd find nothing, or maybe she'd finally see something with her own eyes. 10 minutes into the drive, she felt it. The highway was too empty, too quiet, too still. She slowed as she approached the gas station, the lights glowing weakly in the middle of so much darkness. A single truck was parked near the air pump. White cab, no logos, no plates on the front. Her pulse kicked up. As she pulled into the lot, she noticed movement. A girl, maybe 16, stumbling backward from the passenger side of the truck while two men yelled at her. She looked terrified, face streaked with tears. One of the men grabbed her arm hard enough to make her cry out. Ava didn't think. She threw the car in park, grabbed her phone, and sprinted toward them. "Hey!" Ava shouted. "Let her go." The men froze, surprised. The girl tried to wrench free, but the older man tightened his grip. "This ain't your business," he growled. Ava kept moving. "It is now." The younger man stepped forward, blocking Ava's path. "Turn around and pretend you didn't see this." Ava lifted her phone. "The minute you touch me, your faces are live on a recording and your truck is too. Let her go." The older man hesitated. The girl tried again to pull away. The man slapped her. Ava's stomach lurched. She moved faster. "Hey!" A roar of engines exploded behind her. 3 bikes shot into the gas station like bullets. Jack's in front, followed by 2 iron crows she hadn't met. They weren't wearing colors, just dark jackets. But nothing could hide what they were. Bikers. Warriors on the road. Jack's was off his bike before it stopped rolling, boots stomping toward the men with a fury Ava hadn't seen earlier that night. "What's going on here?" he demanded. The younger man stepped back instantly. "It's nothing, man, just a family argument." Jax's jaw flexed. "Oh, yeah? Then why's she crying?" The girl's voice trembled. "They're trying to take me back." The older man snapped. "She belongs with us." Jax moved so fast Ava barely saw it. He grabbed the man's wrist and twisted until the grip on the girl broke. "She belongs with people who don't terrify her," Jax said. One of the bikers behind him added, "Let the girl talk." The older man tried to puff himself up. "You don't know who you're messing with." Jax leaned closer, voice dangerously calm. "You don't know who you're messing with." The girl bolted toward Ava, who caught her by the shoulders. "What's your name?" Ava asked gently. "Emily," the girl whispered. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, but her hands trembled. Ava glanced at Jax, who nodded once, an unspoken agreement forming through adrenaline and instinct. Jax turned back to the men. "Get in your truck and leave." "We aren't going anywhere without her," the younger man spat. Jax cracked his neck. "Wrong answer." He stepped forward with the full presence of someone who had been in more fights than he could count. The men glanced at each other, weighing their chances. 2 other bikers stood behind Jax, ready if needed. The older man cursed under his breath and yanked his partner toward the truck. "Fine, but this isn't over." Jax smirked. "It actually is." The truck engine roared, and they sped away, tires screeching across the pavement. The moment the truck disappeared into the night, Emily collapsed against Ava, sobbing. "You're safe now," Ava murmured, steadying her. "You're okay." Jax approached them carefully. "We need to get her out of here before someone comes back." Ava nodded. "I know a place. Danny's sister." Jax frowned, surprised. "Already made local connections, huh?" "People talk when they want the truth out," Ava replied. Jax didn't argue. "We'll follow you." Emily's panic spiked. "What if they find me again? What if—" "They won't," Jax said, crouching to meet her eyes. His voice softened. "Not while we're here." Emily stared at him for a moment, then nodded shakily. Ava helped her into the car, then turned to Jax. "You didn't have to come. You're riding roads you shouldn't ride alone," he said, "and that truck matched half the plates from your folder." Ava's eyes widened. "You memorized them?" Jax shrugged. "Like I told you, your story isn't going away." One of the bikers called from his bike. "Sheriff's heading south on the scanner, might swing this way." Ava cursed under her breath. "We need to move, now." Jax agreed. "You lead, we'll flank." Ava got into the driver's seat. Emily sat curled in the passenger seat, still shaking. As they pulled out of the gas station, two bikes slid in behind them, engines rumbling like protective shadows. Ava kept her eyes on the road, but she felt the adrenaline finally settling into something else. A dangerous truth. Whatever Eli had tried to stop years ago, it was still happening, still moving under the radar, still hurting people, and now, a terrified teenage girl was proof. "Emily," Ava said quietly, "those men, were they taking you somewhere specific?" Emily swallowed. They told me I'd be useful, that other girls were waiting, that I'd work off what I owed." Ava's grip tightened on the wheel. "Did they mention names, places? A ranch, maybe, or a warehouse?" I didn't hear everything." Ava nodded. "You're safe now. We'll get you help." Emily hesitated. "You're not police. Why are you helping me?" Ava glanced at her. "Because someone helped my father once and someone betrayed him. I'm not letting anyone else get lost on these roads." Behind them, Jax sped up to match Ava's pace, eyes scanning every approaching vehicle. When they reached Danny's sister's small clinic house, a converted home used for emergency overnight care, Danny was already waiting outside, arms crossed, expression fierce. "Get her inside," Danny said. "I'll take it from here." Ava helped Emily through the door while Jack stayed outside, watching the roads like a sentry. Inside, Danny's sister, Nora, a nurse with warm eyes and quick hands, guided Emily to a small examination room. Ava stepped back out, closing the door gently. Jax waited on the porch, leaning against the railing. Ava joined him. "Thank you." He shook his head. "Wasn't for you. Was for her." Ava crossed her arms. "Doesn't matter. You came, and you didn't have to." Jax exhaled, attention still on the road. "I don't like kids being scared, and I really don't like grown men putting hands on girls who can't defend themselves." Ava studied him. "You're not what I expected. I don't care what you expected." He paused. "But I also don't like lies. And something about this town smells like one." Ava nodded slowly. "You felt it too when Briggs walked in." Jax didn't deny it. "Sheriff doesn't show up at the Iron Crow's bar unless he wants something. Or wants to check something," Ava said. Jax shot her a look. "You really think he knows about the tattoo?" Ava answered without hesitation. "Yes," he reacted before he could hide it. Jax rubbed his beard. "If Briggs is involved." "Then Eli's death wasn't random," Ava finished. They fell quiet for a moment. Then Jax asked something unexpected. "Why do you do this alone?" Ava didn't answer right away. She watched the highway lights flicker in the distance. "Because every time I asked for help, someone told me to stop digging. Because people want easy answers. Because truth is messy." She paused. "Because my father died alone. I won't let the next person die the same way." Jax stared at her, expression unreadable. But something shifted. Respect. Recognition. The beginning of trust. Danny opened the door behind them. "She's safe for now. Sleeping. I'll watch her." Ava nodded. "Thank you." Danny looked between Ava and Jax. "You two need to talk somewhere private. There's more going on here than a scared girl and a tattoo." She wasn't wrong. Jax stepped off the porch. "Ride with me." Ava blinked. "What?" "Your car's fine. But if someone's watching the roads tonight, you'll be safer with us." Ava hesitated. "You're asking me to leave my car here?" "I'm saying," Jax replied, "you're not done seeing things tonight." Ava gazed at him for a long moment. Then she grabbed her jacket. "Fine," she said. "Lead the way." Jax's lips twitched in something almost like a smile. The engines roared to life. Ava climbed onto the back of Jax's bike, hands gripping the leather of his jacket, not for comfort, but for balance as the machine vibrated under her. As they pulled away from the clinic and into the night, she realized something. She wasn't running from danger anymore. She was riding straight toward it. And for the first time since she arrived in Ridgewater, she wasn't alone. The night air hit Ava hard as Jax's bike picked up speed. the engine humming beneath them in a steady rhythm that felt both dangerous and strangely grounding. She kept her hands firm around his jacket, her body leaning with the bike as it carved through the quiet backroads of Ridgewater. The other two riders flanked them like dark shadows on wheels, scanning every turn, every intersection, every pair of headlights approaching. Ava wasn't scared. Not anymore. Not after what she had seen tonight. She was angry. Emily's terrified face, the men trying to drag her away, the sheriff's strange interest in her tattoo. All of it fit together in a way that tightened Ava's chest. This wasn't just her father's story anymore. This wasn't just about a tattoo or a dead man's secrets. Something alive, organized, and vicious was operating through these roads. Something that had taken girls before. Something trying to take another one tonight. And someone inside the Iron Crows had helped keep that road clear. She tightened her grip slightly. Jax noticed. "You good back there?" he shouted over the wind. "Keep going," she replied. "Don't slow down." He didn't. They rode for nearly 15 minutes until Jax turned off the highway, heading toward an old industrial area at the edge of town. Half warehouses, half abandoned lots, all forgotten by most of Ridgewater. Ava frowned. "Where are we going?" "You wanted answers," Jax called back. "You'll get some." He braked slowly near an old trucking depot, rusted fence, flickering lamp, and a row of empty bays. Except, not all of them were empty. A single white truck sat backed into one of the loading docks, engine off, no markings. Just like the one Emily escaped from. Ava felt her pulse jump. "Is that—" "No," Jax said, "but it's close enough to be a twin." The other two riders parked on each side of the depot. Jax killed the engine, waited for Ava to slide off, then swung his leg over and stood tall, scanning the area with the alertness of a man who had survived too many bad nights. Ava crossed her arms. "Tell me why we're here." Jax ran a hand over his beard. "Because 3 months ago, I saw a truck just like that one leaving this depot in the middle of the night. No lights, no cargo papers, no people around. Thought it was odd, but I didn't think more of it." "You didn't think it mattered?" Ava asked. "I didn't think girls were being hauled inside them," he said, voice low. Ava stepped closer to the truck. "Does anyone in your club work here?" Jax hesitated. That silence told her everything. "Jax," she pressed, "who works here?" He didn't answer directly. "We're not a perfect club. Some brothers take side jobs to make extra cash. Sometimes temp work, sometimes security gigs at places like this. Nobody talks much about it." Ava's stomach twisted. "Reed?" Jax's jaw tensed. "He wouldn't work here. But he'd know who did." Ava stared at the truck again. "You brought me here because you don't trust him." Jax looked away, shoulders tightening. "I trust the club. I don't trust everything we've been told." That was enough for her. Ava pulled out her phone and snapped photos of the truck, the bay, the plate number. She zoomed in on a faded sticker on the bumper, half scratched off, but the last 3 letters matched the database she had built months earlier. Same fake company, same route, same story. "This confirms it," Ava said. "They're using this place. They have been for a while." Jax walked around the rear of the truck, peering inside through a crack in the door. It was empty now, but faint marks were still visible on the floor. Scratches, scuffs, pieces of tape. Signs of people being moved inside. He exhaled sharply. "How did we miss this?" he muttered. "How did nobody notice what was going on right under our noses?" Ava stepped up beside him. "You weren't meant to notice. People who move things like this, they count on silence. They count on fear. They count on clubs like yours being told to mind their own business." Jax lowered his head, ashamed and furious. "We ride these roads. We protect them. And somehow, we let this slip through." "You didn't let anything slip," Ava said. "You were lied to, same as me." He shook his head. "Part of a club means staying aware. I should have seen it." Ava studied him for a moment. He wasn't beating himself up for guilt. He was angry because he believed roads were sacred. That highways, The long stretches of America bikers rode at night were supposed to be safe. For him, this wasn't about failure. It was about honor. Jack stepped back. Come on, we're not done yet. He led her toward another part of the depot, an old office building. The metal door hung crooked, held by one hinge. Jax pushed it open carefully. Inside, dust covered most surfaces. A few empty binders, broken chairs, and discarded receipts lay scattered across the floor. It looked abandoned, but Ava noticed fresh tire marks near the door and a faint scent of cigarettes that hadn't burned out long ago. Someone had been here recently. Ava moved deeper inside, eyes scanning the walls. Something caught her attention, faint writing near the corner, barely visible under peeling paint. She knelt and brushed dust away. Numbers, dates, coordinates. Jax crouched next to her. What is that? My father used to write like this, Ava whispered. Small, precise, always numbers. He worked in logistics before joining the club. She photographed the markings, her heartbeat quickening. The numbers matched locations she had flagged before. Truck stops, abandoned barns, rest areas between state borders. That's a map, Jax realized. A route, a schedule. Exactly, she said. Someone was tracking where shipments were going, or where girls were being moved. Jax frowned. Why here? Why this wall? Because someone didn't want to keep notes in a notebook, Ava answered. Too easy to lose. Too easy to get caught with. They used the wall and cleaned it every so often. Jack stepped back slowly. Whoever wrote this knew what they were doing. Ava turned to him. It could have been my father. Jax's eyes widened. Eli? Ava nodded. Maybe he found something out. Maybe he came here to gather proof. Maybe he planned to come back. But he didn't, Jax said quietly. No, Ava agreed. He didn't. The realization hit both of them like a punch. If Eli had been here, if he had tracked the routes, if he had gotten too close, then his death had nothing to do with a robbery, nothing to do with bad luck. He was silenced. Jax straightened, anger burning through him. We need to bring this to the club. Ava shook her head. And what? Walk in with pictures and hope nobody destroys evidence before morning? You think someone inside the club is involved? Ava took a breath, steady and painful. I think someone inside knows more than they're saying. Jax's face darkened. Read. Ava didn't confirm. She didn't have to. Let's go, Jax said. I want to look at something else. They walked out of the depot and back toward the rows of small storage containers lined up behind the warehouse area. The containers were old but locked with new heavy-duty padlocks. Ava stopped. Why would an abandoned depot need this much security? Jax pulled a small flashlight from his jacket and shone it on the locks. These are industrial, not cheap. Ava touched one gently. It was cold. How often do riders pass through here? She asked. Not much, Jax answered. This side of town is dead. No, Ava said. This side of town is perfect. For what? He asked. She looked up at him. For disappearing. They stood in silence until one of the other bikers approached them. Jax, lights. Jax turned sharply. In the distance, two sets of headlights approached the depot. Slowly. Silently. No music. No noise. Ava's blood ran cold. That's them. Jax grabbed her arm. Get behind the containers. They moved quickly, crouching behind a rusted crate as the two vehicles rolled into the lot. A pickup truck and a black SUV. The SUV parked near the loading bay. The pickup reversed close to the storage containers. Jax narrowed his eyes. Those aren't locals. Ava recognized the SUV instantly. That's the same brand used in 3 disappearances from my files. They watched as 4 men got out, 2 from each vehicle. One lit a cigarette. Another unlocked a storage container with a key. Ava held her breath as they swung the door open. Inside were boxes, crates, supplies, but she knew better. Cargo like that could hide anything or anyone. Jax's fists clenched. We need the club, now. Ava grabbed his wrist. Not yet. If we confront them without proof, they'll scatter, or destroy evidence, or move the girls. Jax gritted his teeth. So what do? We watch, Ava said quietly. We find out exactly what they're doing, and then we take it apart. Jax hated it. Every muscle in his body screamed to intervene, but he stayed still. The men loaded several sealed crates into the pickup truck, locked the container again, then got back into their vehicles. As they drove off, Jax whispered, "This is a distribution point." Ava nodded. "One of many." Jax stood, jaw set. "We're taking this to the club right now." Ava inhaled slowly. She knew this was coming. She knew confrontation inside the Iron Crows was unavoidable. But she also knew something else. Once Jax opened this door, there was no closing it again. She followed him to the bikes. But before he started the engine, Ava touched his arm. "Jax," she said softly, "if what we're about to show your club is right, the person who helped those men get control of this road wasn't a stranger." Jax frowned. "What are you saying?" Ava held his gaze. "I'm saying your father's friend, your club's president, might have been the one who let them in." The word sliced through the night like a blade. Jax's expression hardened. And for the first time since Ava arrived in Ridgewater, Jax Carter looked truly dangerous. He didn't start the bike right away. He breathed once, twice. Then he turned to her. "Whatever we find," he said, voice low, "we finish this." Ava nodded. Jax finally started the engine. The roar echoed across the empty depot, loud enough that if anyone nearby was listening, they'd know trouble was coming. As they sped back toward town, Ava held tighter, her heart pounding, because the next door they were about to walk through was the clubhouse. And inside it, truth was waiting. Truth someone had killed her father to bury. Jax didn't say a word on the way back. Ava felt his silence like a storm gathering behind her. His grip on the handlebars was tighter, his shoulders more rigid, his posture colder than anything she'd seen from him yet. She knew the depot had shaken him, seeing the trucks, the containers, the route markings on the wall. All of it pulled truths he wasn't ready to confront. Truths about Eli, truths about the club, truths about Reed. The night wind whipped through her hair as the bike sliced through the dark highway. Behind them, the other two riders kept formation, their headlights following like watchful eyes. The entire ride felt like the world was holding its breath. When they reached town, Jax turned sharply into the alley behind the clubhouse, a brick building lit only by the dim porch lamp over the back door. It was quieter than usual. No music, no laughter, no engines. Just a still, heavy silence Ava didn't trust. Jax stopped the bike. Ava slid off carefully, her legs tense from the ride and the weight of what they'd found. He removed his helmet, ran a hand through his hair, and inhaled deeply. "You ready?" he asked. Ava nodded. "I was ready 15 years ago." He searched her eyes. Something like respect, no, something stronger, flashed for a moment. "Let's go," he said. They pushed open the back door. Inside, the main room of the clubhouse was dimly lit. A few members sat around tables, some cleaning their gear, others drinking. But the atmosphere was different tonight, heavier, nervous, as if the bar whispers from earlier hadn't faded, they'd grown. Ghost stood near the board where the club tracked rides and events. He looked up as soon as he heard boots. Jax locked eyes with him. "Where's Reed?" Jax asked. Ghost tilted his head toward the closed meeting room. "Been in there for an hour," he said quietly. "He's already called 3 private conversations since Ava left. Men going in and out with him, not sure what's brewing." Ava exchanged a tense look with Jax. "He knows something changed," she whispered. "He feels it," Ghost agreed. "He's trying to get ahead of it." Ava scanned the room. Some bikers eyed her with open curiosity. Others avoided looking at her at all. The club was split. She could feel it. Jax walked toward the meeting room and pounded hard on the door. "Open it," he demanded. There was a pause. Then Reed's voice sounded through the wood. "Come back later, Jax. Club business." Jax slammed the door again. "Open it, now." The door ripped open so fast Ava stepped back in surprise. Reed stood there, eyes cold, jaw tight. Behind him sat a few senior members, men loyal to Reed, men who watched everything with calculating glances. "What is so important that you think you can?" Jack stepped inside the doorway, towering over him. "We need to talk." Reed's gaze flicked to Ava. His nostrils flared. "Not with her." "She stays," Jax growled. Reed looked like he was about to refuse, but something in Jax's face stopped him. Or maybe Reed knew that pushing back right now in front of the entire club would crack the image of control he depended on. "Fine," Reed muttered. "Say what you came to say." Jax walked into the room. Ava followed. Ghost slipped in behind them silently. Jax placed his hands on the table, leaning forward. "We found something." Reed rolled his eyes. "What did you find, Jax? Another conspiracy? Another wild theory from a stranger?" Ava pulled out her phone. "We went to the depot on the edge of town, the one you said was shut down years ago." One of Reed's loyal men scoffed. "That place, no one uses it." "Wrong," Jax snapped. "We watched 2 vehicles load crates into a storage container. At midnight. With no paperwork, no markings, no reason to be there." Reed's eyebrows twitched, just slightly. Ava continued. "Inside the office wall, someone carved route numbers, coordinates, stops. Same pattern used in the disappearances I'm tracking." Another pause. Reed's voice dropped. "And what exactly do you think that means?" Jax didn't hesitate. "It means Eli wasn't killed by accident. It means he found something. Maybe exactly what we saw tonight. And someone made sure he didn't talk." Reed's eyes went ice cold. "You're walking dangerous ground." "No," Jax said, stepping forward. "I'm standing where Eli stood, looking at the same thing he saw." Some of the men watching shifted. This wasn't a confrontation anymore. It was a line being drawn. Reed forced a laugh, but there was no humor in it. "You're letting her turn you against your own brothers." Ava took one step forward. "I'm not turning him. The truth is." Reed turned to her, anger rising. "You don't belong here. You don't understand this club or what your father was mixed up in." Ava's jaw tightened. "Then explain it to me." Reed opened his mouth to retort, but Jax cut him off sharply. "Where were you the night Eli took his last ride?" Jax demanded. Reed froze. For the first time, he didn't have an immediate excuse. Jax pressed harder. "What route did you send him on?" One of Reed's men stood up. "Watch yourself, Jax." "Sit down," Ghost growled. The man hesitated, then sat. Jax leaned closer. "You told us he died in a robbery. But the route on the police report doesn't match the route he actually took. The timestamp doesn't match. The trucks don't match. Nothing matches." Reed's expression twitched. A crack, a slip, a glimpse of guilt. Ava caught it. So did Jax. So did Ghost. Reed exhaled, long and slow, like someone preparing to shift blame carefully. "You want the truth?" Reed said finally. "Fine. Eli wasn't innocent. He was planning deals behind the club's back, deals I shut down." Ava stiffened. "That's a lie." Reed pointed at her. "You didn't know him." Ava's voice sharpened. "I knew the man who wrote the numbers on that depot wall. He was tracking crimes, not committing them." Jax crossed his arms. "Reed, you're hiding something. I can see it." Reed slammed his fist onto the table. "I'm protecting this club." Ava stepped forward, anger finally burning through her restraint. "My father tried to protect people, girls, families, who were being moved like cattle through this town." Reed's eyes narrowed. "You think you know what he was doing? You have no idea what he got himself into." "You do," Jax said quietly. "Don't you?" Reed said nothing. Silence cut through the room like a blade. Jax took a single step closer. Tell me, did Eli come to you before he died? Did he tell you what he found? Reed's jaw clenched so tightly a vein pulsed near his temple. Ghost spoke up unexpectedly. Reed, I remember that week. I remember how nervous Eli was. And I remember you telling him to take the long route home, alone. Reed whipped around. Shut your mouth. Ghost didn't move. You said he needed space. You said he was stressed, but you sent him right past that depot. Reed's voice grew louder. I said shut up. Ava looked around at the men at the table. Many looked uneasy, some angry, some confused, a few terrified of the truth slipping out. Jax nodded slowly. You sent him into a trap. Reed shoved the table so hard it screeched across the floor. You don't know anything. Ava stepped closer until she was in Reed's line of fire. Then tell us. Tell us why the sheriff recognized my tattoo. Tell us why someone still uses routes my father tracked. Tell us why Emily nearly got taken tonight. Reed faltered for 1 second, one tiny second, but it was enough. Ava saw it. Jax saw it. Ghost saw it. Half the club saw it. Reed had known. He had always known. He lifted his chin. Get her out of here. No one moved. Jax's voice came out deadly calm. No. Reed stared at him. You're choosing her over your brothers? Jax shook his head. I'm choosing the truth over a lie. Reed's expression shifted from anger to something darker, something dangerous. Then you're no brother of mine, Reed whispered. Ghost stepped up beside Jax. If he's out, then so am I. Another biker stood. Then another. Then 3 more. The club was splitting in real time. And Reed saw it happening. His eyes blazed. You're going to regret this, he spat. All of you. Before Jax could reply, a loud bang erupted against the back window. Everyone froze. Another bang. Then the shattering crash of glass. A brick flew through the room and hit the table. Ava ducked. Jax shielded her. Reed shouted, What the hell? Ghost rushed to the broken window and looked out. His face drained. They're here, he said. Who? Jax demanded. Ghost swallowed. Sheriff Briggs and others, armed. Ava's blood ran cold. He followed us. Jax's voice hardened. He's not here for a talk. Reed backed away, pale. We're under attack? Before anyone could answer, headlights flooded the front of the clubhouse. Doors slammed, engines cut, boots approached. Then, a man outside shouted, Bring the girl out or we come in. Ava's heart kicked hard. Jax grabbed her arm. We need to move, now. Reed looked between the window and Ava, panic rising. What did you do? Ava stepped back, breath steady. I didn't do this, she said. You did. Jax pulled her toward the back exit. Outside, the night lit up with torch beams and the metallic click of weapons loading. Sheriff Briggs shouted again, Last chance, bring her to me! Ava felt her pulse thunder in her ears. They weren't after the club. They were after her. The shout from outside shook the walls. Bring the girl out or we come in. Every man in the clubhouse turned toward the front doors. Boots scraped, chairs fell over. Hands went to weapons out of habit. But this wasn't a bar fight. This wasn't a rival club drifting into town. This was the sheriff, and he wasn't alone. Ava's heart pounded, but her mind stayed sharp. Panic didn't help. Facts did. Jax grabbed her by the arm and pulled her behind a support pillar. Stay with me, he said. His voice was low, but not calm. It carried a promise. He wasn't letting her go. Reed stood in the middle of the room, staring toward the front like someone watching a disaster he helped build. Ghost moved to the window again, careful to stay below the broken glass. 5 vehicles, he said. Sheriff's truck, a couple of unmarked SUVs, men with rifles. Not all of them are deputies. Mercenaries, Ava said. Or hired muscle. Another voice shouted from outside. You've got 5 minutes before we come in. Don't make this worse. Reed rounded on Ava. fury and fear mixing in his eyes. "What did you do? Who did you call?" Ava shook her head. "I didn't call him. Briggs came on his own." "You brought this heat down on us," one of Reed's loyal men snapped. Jax spun on him. "She didn't set up deals with that man. She didn't send Eli into a trap. Don't forget who did." The room went quiet. Reed's jaw worked, but he didn't answer. Ava straightened. "Listen to me. Briggs isn't here for your club, he's here for me. He thinks if he takes me, he can tie up every loose end at once. Eli, Emily, the Roots, the depot, all of it." "Then give him what he wants," one of Reed's men muttered. Ghost stepped in front of Ava. "You say that again, you'll be picking your teeth up off the floor." Jax's eyes never left Reed. "Did you call him?" Reed hesitated. It was small, half a second. But in that half second, everyone in the room got their answer. Ava inhaled sharply. "You warned him back at the bar," she said. "You told him something had changed. You called again after I left." Reed didn't admit it. He didn't need to. Jax took a step closer. "He knew you'd crack if she kept asking questions, so he came to solve your problem for you." Reed snapped, "You don't know what you're talking about." "Then tell us," Ava shot back. "Tell us why you sent Eli alone that night. Tell us why Briggs recognized this tattoo. Tell us why this town has trucks moving girls on roads your club rides and you never once pushed back." Outside, engines idled. Radio chatter drifted faintly through the broken window. Briggs shouted again. 4 minutes. Jax dropped his voice. "We don't have time to argue. We need a plan." Ghost nodded. "We split. Some hold the front. Some get her out the back. Someone has to get word to people who aren't on Briggs's leash." Ava already knew who that someone was. She pulled out her phone and opened a secure folder. "Before I came to Ridgewater," she said, "I uploaded every file I had to an online drive. Truck plates, photos, timelines. I set a trigger. If I don't input a code every 12 hours, it auto-sends everything to a federal task force that deals with trafficking." Jax looked at her. "You serious?" "Yes." She looked up. "The timer is still running. If Briggs kills me or disappears me, he doesn't bury the truth. He just makes more noise." Jax stared for a second, then nodded once. "Good." Ghost took a breath. "I've got something, too." He moved to a locked drawer behind the bar, pulled out an old metal box, and set it on the counter. His hands shook only a little as he opened it. Inside was a worn leather notebook. Ava's chest tightened. She didn't need anyone to tell her whose it was. "Eli gave me this the week before he died," Ghost said. "Told me if anything happened to him I should burn it. I couldn't. I hid it instead." He handed it to Ava. She flipped it open. Dates, routes, names, short notes in tight handwriting. Some pages were smeared, others clear. In the margins, Eli had written small observations. Truck never stopped at inspection. Same driver, different company name. Briggs knows more than he says. At the end of the notebook, one sentence stood alone. "If I go down, someone inside helped push me." Ava swallowed hard. This is enough to start something real." Ghost nodded. "Then make sure it doesn't die with you." The club watched her carefully. This wasn't just her father's notebook anymore. It was a fuse. Jax turned to the men in the room. "Listen up. This is how it's going to go. Briggs thinks he can corner us and drag her out like cargo. That's not happening." One of Reed's men barked. "You plan to start a war with the sheriff's department?" Jax shook his head. "I plan to hold the line until someone who isn't on his payroll gets here." "How?" another asked. Ava answered. "By forcing him to overplay his hand. He wants me quiet. That means he doesn't want cameras. He doesn't want witnesses. We give him both." Jax glanced at her phone. "You said you can send things from here?" "Yes," she said. "If I get one clean recording of Briggs admitting anything, Roots, deals, Eli's death, it's enough to light a fire." Ghost looked between them. "So you want to bait him?" Ava nodded. He already thinks I'm here. He already thinks this building is surrounded. We can't outrun him forever, so we make him talk while he thinks he's winning. Outside, another shout. 3 minutes. Jax turned to the younger bikers. Rory, Luke, Mason, you three stay with the back door. No one comes through except us. If things go bad, you get Ava out on a bike and head straight for the next county line. You don't stop for anything. Rory swallowed. Yes, sir. Luke nodded, jaw set. Mason adjusted his gloves, eyes serious. Jax looked at Ava. You ready to do something reckless and possibly stupid? She exhaled once. I walked into your bar alone. This is nothing. He almost smiled. Almost. They moved. Jax, Ava, and Ghost headed toward the front room while other club members spread out, some taking position by windows, others at the sides of the door. Reed stayed near the middle, torn between fear of Briggs and fear of losing control of his own club. I'm telling you, Reed hissed. If you fight him, you'll bring the entire state down on us. Jax didn't look back. Maybe that's exactly what we need. Ava handed her phone to Ghost. Keep this recording, she whispered. Camera on, audio live. Point it at the door and don't drop it. Ghost nodded. You got it. She tapped the screen, started recording, and positioned the phone near a crack in the broken window facing the lot. The front door shook as someone kicked it once, hard. Briggs shouted, Time's up! Jax motioned for everyone to hold. Sheriff, he called out. No need to kick anything. Door's open. He pulled it open just enough to step into the doorway. Floodlights hit him from the vehicles outside. Ava stayed back, half hidden but within earshot. Briggs stood in front wearing his uniform and an expression that tried to look official but landed closer to smug. Around him, 4 men held rifles pointed at the ground but ready. 2 wore deputy badges. 2 didn't. Evening, Jax, Briggs said. We've got ourselves a situation. Looks that way, Jax replied. You surrounding a private clubhouse with rifles isn't a normal night for Ridgewater. Briggs shrugged. We had reports of a dangerous individual inside. Someone stirring up trouble, making accusations, interfering with law enforcement investigations. Ava stepped just far enough forward that he could see her. You mean me, she said. Briggs's eyes narrowed. Miss Cole. Jax didn't miss the way he said it. You've been busy, Briggs continued. Dropping into my town, harassing my deputies, causing problems at gas stations. You mean saving a girl from 2 men who had no legal claim over her, Ava said. You're welcome, by the way. Briggs smiled, thin and mean. You don't understand how things work here. Ava's back straightened. I understand exactly how they work. I've been watching them for months on paper. Tonight, I watched them in person. Briggs's jaw tightened. You think you're some kind of hero? You're a civilian sticking her nose into things she doesn't see a full picture of. The full picture, Ava said evenly, is girls in trucks with no logs, no manifests, and no destination except nowhere. The full picture is a dead biker president who said no and ended up in a fake robbery. One of the deputies shifted uncomfortably. Jax stepped out onto the porch, not breaking eye contact. Why are you really here, Briggs? Briggs's gaze flicked to the broken window, then back to Jax. I'm here to take Miss Cole into custody for interfering with an ongoing investigation. Ava laughed once. What ongoing investigation? You never filed one. Briggs's face hardened openly now. You don't have the authority to question me. You're right, Ava said. I don't. She lifted her chin. But they do. Sirens wailed in the distance. Everyone turned. Red and blue lights flashed down the road. More vehicles approaching, but these weren't Briggs's. Different markings. State troopers. Briggs spun around, furious. What the hell is this? Ava answered. Back up. She stepped further into the doorway. An hour before I came here tonight, she said, voice steady. I emailed every file I had to a state investigator I've been talking to for weeks. Truck plates, photos of routes, your name on logs, your signature on closed cases. Records of every missing girl in 3 counties around your jurisdiction. Jax stared at her. Ghost stared at her. Reed stared at her. Briggs's face reddened. You little... And just now, Ava added, I sent them live coordinates and video from your little welcoming party here. Pressure. Armed men. Threats. You surrounded a private property because I have questions you don't like. One of the unmarked men took a step back. Sheriff. Briggs glared at him. Shut up. The state trooper vehicles pulled in fast, blocking part of the lot. Doors opened. Uniformed officers exited, hands near their holsters but not drawn. One woman with a badge that clearly wasn't local walked toward the mess, eyes sharp and assessing. Sheriff Briggs, she called out, care to explain why you're holding a nighttime armed operation off the books? Briggs tried to recover his posture. This is my county. I don't answer to you. The woman flashed her ID. You do tonight. Detective Mariah Lewis, State Organized Crime Unit, and I've been waiting for an excuse to drive down here. Ava let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Lewis stopped a few feet from Briggs, eyes taking in the rifles, the vehicles, the smashed window. Looks interesting, she said. Maybe you can start by telling me who authorized this. Briggs forced a smile. We received a tip about a dangerous subject linked to interstate trafficking networks hiding inside this clubhouse. I'm handling it. Ava stepped forward into the light. Hi, she said. I'm the dangerous subject, and I'm also your tip. Detective Lewis's lips twitched. Miss Cole? Yes, Ava said. I sent you the files. Lewis gave the smallest nod, then turned back to Briggs. We've been reviewing those files for days. Funny thing, Sheriff, your name shows up a lot, yours and some of your deputies, but none of your reports mention any ongoing investigations related to those trucks or missing persons. Briggs' composure cracked. This is a setup. Lewis raised an eyebrow. Are you claiming the person who reported crimes to us is part of the crimes, or are you claiming you ignored those crimes completely? He sputtered, searching for a line that would save him. Ava didn't give him time. You used this club's roots, she said. You used Eli's reputation, his clean image, to cover your transactions. When he refused to play along, he died on a road he shouldn't have been on, next to trucks that didn't exist on paper. And Reed, she turned, facing the president now, helped make sure no one asked why. Every eye in the lot went to Reed. Detective Lewis looked at him calmly. Is that true? Reed's throat worked. I was told. Eli was unstable. He took risks. He rode where he wasn't supposed to. By who? Jack snapped. Reed flicked a glance at Briggs. It was all anyone needed to see. Detective Lewis noticed. Sheriff, you want to tell me why a local club president is looking at you for answers about his own brother's death? Briggs lost it. Eli Cole was in over his head. He tried to play hero. People like him get themselves killed. That's not my fault. Thank you, Ava said quietly. That's the first honest thing you've said tonight. Ghost's hand tightened around the phone, still recording through the window. Detective Lewis watched Briggs carefully. You knew he went out that night. Briggs jabbed a finger toward the clubhouse. He was warned to stay out of things that weren't his business. He didn't listen. That's on him. And you called it a robbery, Ava said. You signed the report. You ignored evidence. You let those trucks keep running. Briggs whirled on her. Do you have any idea how much money moves through this town because of those roads? He stopped. But it was too late. Detective Lewis's eyes chilled. Got it, she said. She signaled to one of the troopers. Cuff him. Briggs stepped back. You can't do this. This is my county. It was, Lewis replied. Right now, it's a crime scene. Two troopers stepped forward and grabbed his arms. He tried to yank free, but they were trained and ready. The deputies who had come with him looked at each other, confusion and fear battling in their faces. Lewis pointed at them. Take their weapons. We'll sort out who knew what later. Reed watched Briggs struggle against the cuffs, panic growing. This wasn't supposed to go like this, he muttered. Jax turned on him. What was it supposed to be? He comes in, takes her, Cleans up your little problem and the rest of us keep riding like nothing ever happened? Reed swallowed. I thought if I kept the club out of it, we'd be safe. Ava stared at him. Safe while girls disappeared? While trucks rolled? While my father's name got buried under lies? He couldn't look at her. Detective Lewis stepped closer to the porch. Mr. Mercer, she said, I'm going to need you to come in for questioning. You're not under arrest yet, but you will be if you walk away. Reed didn't move. For a second, it looked like he might run. Then he saw the men he used to command staring at him, some with anger, some with disgust, some with hurt. Something in him wilted. He stepped down off the porch and held out his hands. Do you know what you've done? He whispered to Ava as he passed. She didn't flinch. I stopped what you helped start. They led Reed away. The lot slowly shifted from a battlefield to an evidence scene. Troopers tagging vehicles, taking photos, speaking into radios. Some bikers remained tense, expecting at any moment to be thrown to the ground, cuffed, dragged away. But Detective Lewis looked at Jax and Ava and said something they didn't expect. I'm not here for your club, she said. Not unless I find out you knew about those routes and helped keep them open. Right now, I see a lot of men who were kept in the dark and a dead president who tried to do the right thing. Jax exhaled. Ava's shoulders dropped slightly. Lewis turned to Ava. We're going to need Emily to give a full statement, and any other girls you think we can still find. You up for helping with that? Ava nodded. All of it. Lewis met her eyes. You did good. You were reckless, but you did good. Ava didn't smile, but the knot in her chest eased. As troopers took Briggs away in the back of a cruiser, Ava couldn't help watching. The man who had held this town in fear for years looked small for the first time. And Eli, wherever he was, wasn't just a dead file anymore. He was right. Hours passed. By the time the sun started to lighten the horizon, the lot had mostly cleared. A few troopers remained, talking quietly with Lewis, logging evidence. The sheriff's office was officially under investigation. Deputies were suspended pending review. Inside the clubhouse, the Iron Crows gathered. No music, no jokes, no drinks, just a decision. Ghost stood in front of the board. We can't pretend none of this happened, he said. We can't say we didn't know. We do now. A younger member spoke up. What happens to Reed? Jax answered. He answers to the law for what he did with Briggs. And whatever the court doesn't handle, he answers to the memory of the man he sold out. No one argued. Ghost looked at Jax. We need a new president. The room shifted. Eyes turned to Jax. He shook his head. This isn't about rank. It's about what we are from now on. That's exactly why it should be you, Ghost said. You didn't look away tonight. You listened when it would have been easier to tell her to leave. Another biker nodded. We need someone who hears more than just the noise of the engines. One by one, hands lifted. Jax looked at Ava, almost like he was asking her permission to accept what his brothers were offering. She shrugged lightly. I'm not in your club, but if you want my opinion. She held his gaze. Roads are safer when people like you are watching them. He let out a short breath. All right, he said finally. If I take it, things change. Ghost smirked. That's the point. Jax faced the room. No more looking the other way. No more shady side jobs with mystery money. We ride. We protect. We help when we see someone in trouble. That's it. Our patch doesn't get used to hide anything ugly ever again. No one objected. It felt less like a vote and more like a promise. Later, after statements were taken and calls were made, after Emily was officially placed in a safe program out of town, with Ava promising to visit, things finally quieted. The bar was almost empty. Ava sat on a stool, Eli's notebook in front of her, her coffee going cold. Jax approached and slid onto the stool beside her. Long night, he said. That's an understatement, she replied. He glanced at the notebook. You going to keep it? She nodded. It's the only piece of him I have that isn't a rumor or a file. Ghost approached from behind the bar, wiping his hands on a towel. "It's not the only piece," he said. Ava frowned. "What do you mean?" Ghost reached into his vest and pulled out a small folded envelope yellowed with age. He set it on the bar and pushed it toward her. "He wrote that the week you were born," Ghost said. "Told me to give it to you if he ever disappeared. I kept it in case he came back for it." He swallowed. "He never did." Ava stared at the envelope like it might disappear if she touched it. Her name was written on the front in careful handwriting. She picked it up, hands shaking slightly, and opened it. The letter was simple. No dramatic lines, no poetic phrases. Just a man telling his newborn daughter he loved her. Telling her he wanted to build a life where she didn't grow up around fear. Telling her if anything happened, it was because he chose right over easy. By the time she finished reading, her eyes were wet. Jax didn't say anything. He just sat there, solid and steady, letting her have the moment. Ava folded the letter carefully and tucked it into the notebook. "He didn't abandon me," she said quietly. "He was fighting for something." Jax nodded. "And you finished what he started." She shook her head. "We did." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the night settling into something lighter. "So," Jack said, looking at her with a small, tired smile. "What happens now, Ava Cole?" She thought about it. She could leave. She had done what she came to do. Her father's name was cleared. Briggs was in custody. Roots were being investigated. The roads would never be the same. But the work wasn't over. "Detective Lewis wants help finding other girls," Ava said. "Names, patterns, places they might have been taken." "She'll need someone who knows the roads," Jax replied. "And someone who knows how to talk to people at truck stops and bars." "And motels," Ava added. "And old depots." Jax nodded. "So, you stay?" Ava looked around the bar, the place where everything started, where everything almost ended. Neon lights humming, chairs slightly crooked, pool tables still with a game left halfway through. It didn't look like a trap anymore. It looked like a base. "If I stay," she said slowly, "I'm not just the dead president's daughter. I'm not your charity project. I work. I help. I don't sit in a corner." Jax's smile reached his eyes this time. "I wouldn't expect anything else." Ghost chuckled. "You'll fit in just fine." Ava exhaled, a long breath that carried 15 years of weight with it. "Then yeah," she said. "I stay. For a while." A beat passed. Jack stood, then held out his hand. "Welcome to Ridgewater, Ava Cole. We've got ugly history, but maybe we'll have better roads." She took his hand. Firm. Certain. Later that day, when the sun was fully up and the town began to move again, a few locals glanced curiously at the line of bikes outside the clubhouse. The sheriff's truck was gone. New cars came and went. Troopers, investigators, social workers, people whispered. They would keep whispering for a long time. But one thing changed. The Iron Crows weren't just a rumor anymore. They were the ones who answered when someone was in trouble. Weeks passed. Truck routes were shut down. Warrants were issued. Names Ava had written in her notebook turned into faces in handcuffs. Emily's statement helped pull other victims out of hiding. Roads that once felt like hunting grounds started to feel like roads again. Ava split her time between meetings with Lewis and rides with the club. She learned the highways the way Eli had. She learned the back roads, the shortcuts, the places where danger liked to hide. She didn't carry her father's shadow anymore. She carried his mission. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky orange, the bar filled slowly with familiar sounds again. Laughter, clinking glasses, low music. The tension had eased, replaced by something steadier. Ava stood behind the bar for a second, watching it all. Jax approached, helmet in one hand. "We're heading out," he said. "Danny got a call from a girl 2 towns over. Says someone's been following her near the rest stop. We're going to ride through and make sure she's not alone tonight." Ava nodded. "I'm coming." "You sure?" he asked. "It might be nothing." She shook her head. It might be something. That's enough. He smiled. Grab your jacket. She did. As they stepped outside, she paused and glanced up at the sign over the door, the same one she'd seen the first night she walked in. She remembered the silence, the suspicion, the fear. Now, when she walked out with Jax and the others toward the row of bikes, the men didn't stare at her like a stranger. They nodded. Some smiled. Ghost tossed her a spare helmet. Try not to fall off this time, he grumbled. She rolled her eyes. I held on fine. Jax swung his leg over his bike and waited. Ava climbed on behind him, arms wrapping around his waist, not out of fear, but because she belonged on that ride. The engine roared to life. As the bikes pulled away from the bar and onto the open road, Ava glanced back once just to see it, the place where everything changed. She had walked into that biker bar alone, carrying a tattoo and a story nobody wanted to hear. Now, when she rode out, she didn't ride alone. She rode with a club that had chosen truth over comfort, with a man who chose her father's code over easy loyalty, with a family that had been broken and rebuilt around something better. The highway stretched ahead of them, clear, watched, protected, and for the first time the road didn't feel like the place her father died. It felt like the place where his fight finally won.